5 rotten phases that drag a narcissist into becoming a full-fledged demon. People argue about it all the time. Are narcissists actually evil? Some people insist no, because they've had a rough past. Others say yes, because the damage they cause is undeniable. So, what's the truth? Here it is. Even if someone isn't born evil, the choices they repeat, the patterns they cling to, can transform them into something that is. Evil isn't always sudden. It's built brick by brick. When someone keeps hurting others on purpose and takes pleasure in the outcome, that's when the shift happens. Whether you call it the devil, darkness, or simply evil, the reality remains the same. Narcissists turn into enemies of goodness, enemies of life, enemies of love. This isn't about having one bad day or making one mistake. It's about a path carved slowly, step by step, repetition after repetition. It begins with something small, a lie that gets them what they want, a trick that makes them feel powerful, a refusal to take blame because blame feels too much like weakness. The reward is intoxicating. There's still a voice inside whispering, "Do the right thing." But they push it down. They're like the rush of getting away with it. That's where the rut takes root. Over time, that rut spreads. They start using people who trust them, draining energy, time, and hope. They manipulate their children, and sometimes other people's children too, turning them into pawns. They drive their partners into self-doubt, surround themselves with followers who cheer them on, and treat everyone as disposable. Each act piles up like spiritual debt, and whether you believe in karma, energy, or divine justice, it always comes back. Because here's the thing, it's not just psychology at play, it's spiritual, too. The thrill that once felt like a guilty pleasure turns into a craving. That craving hardens into habit. The habit morphs into identity, and before long, that identity becomes their entire personality. At that point, what you're looking at isn't just a difficult person. It's something demonic in nature. So today, we're peeling back the curtain on what I call the 5 stages of decay every narcissist goes through before surrendering to darkness, before they fully become evil. Stage 1. Opting for convenience instead of integrity. It always begins small, not with a monstrous act, but with a choice that feels convenient. Tell a lie to slip out of trouble. Twist a story to get ahead. Point the finger at someone else so you don't have to take the blame. Push a boundary just because you can. The first time they do it, there's a jolt, almost like a child afraid of being caught. Their body trembles. Their conscience whispers, "Don't do it." But then the reward comes. Someone believes the lie. Someone backs down. And instead of punishment, there's victory. Relief floods in, followed by a rush so sharp it feels like sugar in the blood. The brain makes its note. Remember this. It works. Do it again. If they grew up in pain or chaos, that rush feels even stronger. Like a taste of power they've never had before. Shame is there, buried under the thrill, but they don't sit with it. They can't. So, they start constructing an alternate version of themselves. A false self who is always right, always smarter, always above the rules. The inner voice tries to break through, do the right thing, but they drown it out. They call that voice weakness. They start to believe survival means bending the rules, that only the ruthless win. They repeat it until it becomes their creed. I do what I must. This is where the spiritual shift begins. Warnings turn into background noise. The moral compass gets shoved into the backseat. And when nothing falls from the sky to punish them after crossing the line, they cross it again and again. Choices become patterns. Patterns harden into a path. The thrill turns into a craving, and craving into need. That's how the rot first takes root, quietly embedding itself in the core of their identity. Stage 2. Exploiting trust and conditioning others to uphold deception. Once the rush transforms into a need, supply becomes essential. And the easiest supply doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who trust them most. Partners, parents, friends, and above all, children. Children are open. They want to please. They mirror what they see. And the narcissist knows this. They see innocence not as something sacred, but as something useful. So they create roles. There's the golden child, the one who gets rewarded for blind loyalty. Then there's the scapegoat, the one who absorbs every blame, every failure, every outburst. Around them, they weave webs of lies, telling different stories to different people, carefully designed to keep everyone off balance. Tiny acts of obedience get rewarded. Tiny truths get punished. Silence becomes a weapon. Gifts become glue. Love and fear are blended so tightly that no one can tell them apart anymore. This is trauma bonding. A child grows up thinking chaos is normal, that doubt equals love. A partner begins to believe that walking on eggshells is what devotion looks like. A family starts revolving around one person's moods, freezing their own growth to maintain the illusion of peace. And all of it funnels back into the narcissist, feeding their hunger for control. The spiritual shift here is darker than before. They're not only ignoring their own conscience, they're bending the conscience of others, warping innocence into obedience, poisoning what is sacred, the trust between parent and child, the safety of a home, the honesty of a bedtime story. They twist these into tools, and with each manipulation, a weight builds. Call it karma, call it moral debt, call it energy that remembers its source. The name doesn't matter, but it's there, stacking higher, pressing heavier, waiting. And when the time comes, it does not forget its way back. Stage 3. The illusion breaks and past wrongs resurface. Here's the thing about narcissists. Eventually, reality catches up. The mask they've been polishing for years begins to slip. People drift away. Partners wake up. Children grow older and move out. Friends stop answering calls. The charm that once got them through doors stops working, because charm has a shelf life. Money runs thin, because lies are expensive. Their health falters, their sleep turns restless, their body starts to break down. Even their face betrays them, aging faster, looking harder, carrying the shadow of what they've become. The circle shrinks. The world whispers no in 100 subtle ways. For most people, this will be a moment to pause, reflect, maybe soften. But narcissists, they do the opposite. They get louder, meaner, more dramatic. They inflate their stories, stretch their lies, cling harder to grandiosity as if arrogance could keep the cracks sealed. They mock what is sacred, because to them, sneering at faith or decency feels like power. They laugh at rules, at morality, at the idea of accountability. With every door that shuts, they don't ask why. They tell themselves, the world is jealous. The world is unfair. Everyone else is a snake. But in truth, they become the biggest snake of them all. They rewrite history, blaming every person they've ever hurt, declaring that they were the problem. And still they run, desperate to stay ahead of the silence creeping in. The stillness that once numbed their conscience now feels like a barren wasteland. Their prayers, if they still pretend to pray, sound hollow. Rituals lose meaning. Even coincidences that once seemed to favor them now seem to expose them. Screenshots surface. Witnesses speak. Truth leaks through the cracks. The mask slips in public. Sometimes they catch a glimpse of themselves in the mirror, and for just a split second, the real face flashes back, and it terrifies them. But instead of stopping, they double down. Pride becomes fuel, and pride on top of rot doesn't slow the decay. It accelerates it. The fall quickens, the mask crumbles, and the darkness underneath begins to seep through. Stage 4. Swapping affection for authority until desire devours them. By this stage, something fundamental shifts. Real love no longer feels safe to them. Love asks for vulnerability, for repair, for accountability, and that feels unbearable, so they reject it. Control feels easier, so they choose control every time. It's predictable, it's quick, it gives them the hit they crave. They begin treating people like machines, inputs and outputs. Everything becomes a transaction. I gave you this, now you owe me that. They hoard favors, stockpile secrets, and weaponize kindness. Promises stop being promises and become leverage. Cruelty starts to excite them. Watching someone cry feels like proof of power. Breaking trust feels like winning because it confirms, no one can hold me. Even intimacy twists into conquest. Sex reduced to punishment, domination, and tests of loyalty. The cycles tighten. The fights get nastier. The peace between explosions grows shorter and thinner until it's almost gone. They bait, they push, they pull, draining their partners, their friends, their families. And when those wells start to dry, they move on to fresh supply. But the sparkle doesn't last. Each new victim gives less of a high than the last. And that emptiness that once hid beneath the surface begins to show. Spiritually, it feels like winter. The ground inside them, where joy or gratitude could once have grown, is frozen solid. The small things that once offered comfort, music, food, laughter, nature, fall flat. Life feels gray, stripped of awe. The only thing left is hunger. Annoying, restless hunger that never sleeps. It wakes them at night. It stalks them through meetings. It whispers in their ear. And it always says the same thing. More control, more praise, more submission. And no matter how much they take, it is never enough. That hunger eats them first. Their peace evaporates. Then it devours everyone around them. They become reckless, risking jobs, homes, health, even the futures of their own children, just to feed it. Their volatility is impossible to hide. They may still pretend to be functional, but the mask is wearing thin. The darkness they've carried inside begins to leak into their eyes. You can see it. The breakdown isn't coming. It's already begun. This is where their false self is no longer enough to cover what they've become. And for the first time, the real evil steps forward, no longer content to hide behind charm. Stage 5. When the mask drops, only the path remains. Eventually, the games stop working. The tricks fail. Too many people have seen through them. Too many bridges have burned. That charm, the one that used to light up a room, now lands flat. Jokes fall stale. The sparkle in their eyes is gone. People who once pitied them feel numb. Those who feared them feel exhausted. The mask becomes heavy. It slips. The character they've been performing and the person beneath merge into one. There's nothing left to hide. After countless discards, returns, legal battles, health scares, money crises, awkward family gatherings, and isolating work events, the act wears thin. Lies collide and overlap, and the narcissist can no longer keep track of what they've told whom. The self they once had, the warm, human self, has long since starved. Spiritually, what emerges is what old stories call union with evil. You can read that symbolically or take it literally, but either way, the signs are clear. There's no inner light, no hesitation before harm, no instinct to repair. Only a script remains. Blame, threaten, destroy. Kindness is strategy. Remorse is self-pity. Change is just another mask to hide behind. Trust is impossible. Money, children, time, energy, everything becomes volatile and unsafe. They are like a wounded, free-falling animal, aware of their descent but powerless to stop it. At this stage, the monster within is fully visible. Sometimes it goes silent, cold and calculating. Other times it erupts in rage so intense that those around them fear for their safety. The facade of goodness, spirituality, and morality has melted away. All that remains is darkness. Their energy carries extreme negativity wherever they go. Many narcissists, at this final stage, have aligned themselves with forces that feel almost demonic. I've witnessed this in ways that would make most people think of horror movies. When they are fully exposed internally, the weight they carry, the evil they embrace, becomes palpable. It's their refuge, their twisted safe haven. This is the end of the road. There's no redemption here. Only exposure, despair, and a total surrender to the darkness they have cultivated over a lifetime. I want to hear from you. What experiences have you had witnessing this? Share in the comments. And with that, we'll close this episode. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.